everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Doodling Through Education. For my CC students, this is Cycle 1, Week 5, History. For everyone else, that just means that we're talking about the Roman Empire, and specifically Augustus, the Pax Romana, and the division into the Eastern and Western empires. So before we get started, make sure you head on over to doodlingthrougheducation.com. Grab your worksheets that go along with this video. You can buy them there. I've also separated it so you don't have to just buy the whole pack if you want. You can buy it by quarter as well. So check that out. Again, that's doodlingthrougheducation.com. Without further ado, let's start doodling. Ancient Rome was a very powerful and very important civilization that really shaped world history. Rome ruled much of Europe for about 1,000 years, and Rome's culture can still be seen in the Western world because it impacted much of our culture and society as well. You can see this a lot in areas of government, engineering, architecture, language, and even literature. So let's go back to 27 BC. Caesar Augustus was the first Roman emperor, and this is when we say the start of the Roman Empire happened. At the time, the main language was Latin, but Greek was also very important and was considered a secondary language. When Augustus became emperor, it was during a time that Rome had experienced many years of war, of civil war, and he brought peace to the land and really began to rebuild not just the infrastructure of the city, but also the culture and the government. He built many roads and buildings, bridges, and government buildings. He also was able to strengthen the army and conquer much of the land around the Mediterranean Sea. Under Caesar Augustus's rule, Rome experienced much peace and success. It is this period of time that we often call the Pax Romana, and this was a time of 200 years of peace for the Roman Empire. And Augustus was the man who is thought to have laid the groundwork for this peaceful period. So, as I said, during the Pax Romana, there were not many wars. It was a peaceful time, and there was a lot of success in the economy. There was a lot of trade happening and buying and selling of goods. Now, in total, the Pax Romana wasn't completely peaceful, but is remembered as that golden age for Rome. The empire grew very wealthy, and no major threats challenged Rome. And another thing that grew during this time was their knowledge of architecture, science, and mathematics. Now, eventually, Rome became a very large society, and the government really had a difficult time ruling and even protecting all of its territory. There were many different foreign enemies that were moving into the Roman lands, and they were having a really hard time defeating them because of political instability due to how large it was. So in 286 AD, Emperor Diocletian decided to go ahead and divide Rome into two sections. And the purpose of this was he really wanted to try and stabilize the Roman Empire. So he divided it into the Western Empire and the Eastern Empire. Now, there were two capitals and two empires, and they were governed independent of each other.
The Western Roman Empire covered quite a bit more land than the Eastern Empire.
The capital of the Western Empire was none other than Rome. But then the capital of the Eastern Empire was Constantinople, named after Emperor Constantine. Constantinople was a very well-protected city because it was located on a peninsula. And the reason that this creates a very well protected area of land is because a peninsula is very easy to defend. And it was also an easy place for armies to respond in case of any attacks by their enemies. Now, the Eastern and Western empires had many similarities and some differences. They were both considered Roman, and they both shared the history of Rome. But they were governed separately, and their forms of government were pretty similar, and they pretty much enforced the same laws. But as time went on, they grew to become different. And the areas that they saw many differences were in religion, language, and culture. So the Romans in the Western Empire spoke Latin, but those in the Eastern Empire spoke Greek. The Western Empire also practiced Roman Catholicism, while the Eastern Empire were typically Orthodox Christians. Now, the Eastern Empire survived a very long time. It is also known as the Byzantine Empire, and it survived 1,000 more years after its creation before being overtaken by the Ottoman Empire in 1453. But Rome had a different fate. The city of Rome was often thought to be unconquerable, but in 410 AD, Germanic barbarians called the Visigoths were able to invade the city. They took many things from them and sadly killed and enslaved many Romans and destroyed many buildings. This was shocking to the Romans because for 800 years the city of Rome was able to stand, and now it was being overtaken. This continued, and in 476 AD, Germanic barbarians were able to take complete control of Rome, and Romulus Augustulus gave up his crown, and this signaled the end of the Roman Empire. And that's all we have for today. Make sure you do your homework and you go through those 4 worksheets in your workbook. There is an exercise where we compare the Eastern and the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire. You compare and contrast what is the same and what is different. If you need to, rewatch the video. And there's also an exercise where we fill in a timeline. And so I think that will be very beneficial for you as you study about the Roman Empire this week. And on that note, remember to be kind, follow God's will, and take care. Bye.